Chapter 66. The phantoms returned. The armory smelled faintly of solvent, clean, clinical, artificial. Rows of weapon tables ran the length of the room, every surface humming with soft resonance. Lights rippled above like reflections on water, glinting across racks of gear that shimmered faintly with stored power. The others had already begun spreading out, each drawn toward their preferred stations. Richter to the melee pit, Terran to the medic tech alcove, Callan straight to the long-range aisle. Bash hung back. He wasn't eager to celebrate. They'd survived by seconds, maybe less. That was his takeaway from the portal run. Not triumph, not pride, just survival by calculation and timing. And luck, though he'd never admit that part out loud. Now, standing here among gleaming weapons and hard lights, he felt none of it belonged to him. His fingers flexed involuntarily, the phantom ache of that last throw still crawling through the tendons. "You're hesitating." Essie's voice came softly, cool as ever in the back of his mind. "Just looking." "That's not looking. That's stalling." "Same thing." He began moving, slow, methodical, scanning the rows of weapons. Each blade was perfect, mathematically balanced, flawlessly forged. That was the problem. Perfection didn't mean compatibility. He picked up one knife, held it between his fingers, spun it once, twice. The weight felt wrong, too centered. Not enough momentum in the handle. He threw it downrange. It hit the wall tip first, but the vibration was dull. No flow, no rhythm. Trajectory imbalance, 2.8%. C murmured. "I felt that. You could compensate." "Not interested in fighting my own weapon." He placed it back, moved to another rack. Throwing stars, curved blades, resonance-threaded needles, each with glowing data tags promising efficiency and lethality. None of it mattered. He tested, calculated, discarded. What he needed wasn't another weapon. It was a system, something that didn't interrupt his tempo. "You're not looking for a tool," SE said. "You're looking for continuity." And apparently, that's too much to ask. He turned down another aisle, already preparing to leave it behind when SE's tone snapped sharp. "Stop. Go back. Table 3 to your left. There's nothing there. There's everything there." He turned. The table was almost empty. Just a slim belt, dull gray. Its Essence emitters unlit. A tiny projection floated above it, simple and understated. Spectral bandolier allows instant recall of thrown weapons, enabling rapid, sustained multi-knife combat. For a heartbeat, he just stared. Then his chest eased for the first time in hours. Finally, he said, "You're welcome." SC replied, pleased with herself. He lifted the belt. It was light, unassuming, but when his fingers closed around it, a faint vibration rippled through the air. The tether linked instantly, mapping to the residual essence signatures of his previous knives. He pulled a training blade from a nearby rack, threw it across the room. It vanished mid-flight and reappeared in his hand before the sound of the throw had finished echoing. He tried again, faster. 10 throws in a BR. Need 10 perfect returns. "You're smiling," SC observed. "You're imagining things." "You're welcome." Again. "Remind me to listen to you more often." "Please don't." He allowed himself one quiet breath. The first real exhale since the fight. The hum of the bandolier matched the pulse in his wrist. A lit, perfect, complete, infinite. But precision alone wasn't enough. The battle against the summoner still burned behind his eyes. The raptors, the birds, the crawling things that refused to die. The feeling of impact. The helplessness of knowing each strike might be the last before being buried under claws and feathers. He moved to the armor rows. The glow from the displays painted his skin in alternating shades of blue and white. Heavy plate options stood beside exosuits and impact weak. Most looked impressive. All looked cumbersome. Then he saw it, subtle, glass-like plating that shifted colors in response to nearby resonance. The holographic tag flickered beside it. Lithocatalyst barrier suit adaptive variant crystalline armor that gains plus 40% resistance for each new elemental or essence type struck max 5. Excess resistance above 100% converts into steady 1% HP/S regeneration for 25S. Bash studied it quietly. Adaptive learning matrix, SC said, absorbs incoming types, restructures. Essentially, it gets smarter the more you get hit. "You're describing me." "No. You just get more sarcastic." He stepped into the fitting frame. The armor expanded, plates shifting into alignment around his form. It sealed along his arms and chest with a soft hiss, not restricting, contouring. When he flexed, it flexed. When he breathed, it adjusted pressure to match. It shimmered faintly as it locked to his resonance pattern. He moved once, twice, quick pivot, mock throw. The response was instant. Suit tension, released, self-balancing. It didn't feel like armor. It felt like potential. "It syncs with your neural rhythm," SC said. meaning it knows when I'm about to get hit, meaning it knows you think you won't. He gave a small grin. Then it'll learn fast. He adjusted the chassis and turned back to the aisles. One more thing. Mobility. A perfect loop meant nothing if he couldn't reposition. Strike from new angles. He almost missed them, tucked beneath the corner display, half-shadowed. A pair of dark boots with minimal plating and a faint white T-shimmer along the soles. Eckeston amplifier boots. Grants a 5M phase dash with 1.5S recovery. Each dodge refreshes thrown weapon recall and adds brief regeneration. He crouched, fingertips brushing the smooth material. The resonance signature thrummed faintly, restrained, coiled. Mobility and regeneration. SE noted. Dashes refresh recall. That means you can throw mid-step. If timing holds. It will. It's you. He slipped them on. Perfect fit. Snug around the ankles. Pressure evenly distributed. He took a testing step forward, and the world blurred. The hum became a roar of compressed air, his body flickering 5 meters ahead. He reappeared, balanced, knife already in hand from reflex. He threw. The blade vanished, reappeared, vanished again. He felt it. Flow. Precision. FR. Edem. He blinked, exhaled, and realized SE had gone silent. You good? He asked quietly. I'm calculating probabilities, she said finally. Of what? Of your survival rate if you keep testing like that. Higher than it was yesterday. He scanned himself in the mirror. The adaptive suit shimmered in muted gray, crystalline veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. The spectral bandolier pulsed in rhythm at his waist, and the boots hummed in quiet, perfect sync with every breath. Every piece fed the next, recall feeding motion, motion feeding adaptation. Adaptation fueling precision. Satisfied? SC asked. Almost. You always say that before the next catastrophe. Then I'm consistent. He turned, scanning the others. Rixer was stomping dents into the test platform, laughing lit. Thunder. Tara knelt near the medic array station, her oar flaring faint gold as she synchronized her sidearms. Callan moved with the kind of quiet grace that came only from someone obsessing over efficiency. Bow drawn and redrawn in slow arcs. Leora and Dark were sparring already, each testing their new resonance flow. Bash stood apart, always had, but this time, the distance felt intentional. He flexed his wrist once, knife spinning between his fingers, and felt the pull of the bandolier. Instant recall, instantaneous readiness. The faint hum of the armor rose with his heartbeat. The boots pulsed, waiting for his next move. For the first time since the summoner's den, everything aligned. No dead weight, no hesitation, no compromises. Continuity, he said quietly. You found it. SE replied. No, he corrected, eyes narrowing slightly. I built it. As Bash and his team stepped down from the armory platform, Jack's voice rose again across the chamber. Next, Unit 03 Zeta. Zikov, bring your remaining team forward. 4 Spartans approached the tables in silence. Zikov led them with his usual composure, shoulders squared, expression steady, the faintest trace of pride lingering in his posture despite the empty spaces where 2 of his teammates should have stood. His gaze swept the selection tables once, then held steady, as if refusing to acknowledge the silence that followed them in. High above, on the shadowed observation deck that overlooked the entire hall, soft murmurs cut through the dark. 5 clusters of figures, 3 to 4 in each, stood half-veiled, and in low light, their robes marked with faint insignias. 2 stand out the cycle. One voice said evenly, Zikov, the dual unlock. Fire and mineral, both compatible. That makes him a potential 6, maybe 7 ability carrier, statistically speaking. Another voice answered from the far side, lower, deliberate. And the other one, the dark green. The report says his team survived a tier 2 greater summoner. Mainly browns and grays on his team. That's not luck. That's leadership and instinct. He didn't even unlock anything. Someone else replied, tone thoughtful. Exactly, came the response. No ability. Yet he led a low-tier team through a T2G and returned intact. That kind of control under pressure doesn't come from resonance. It comes from something else. A faint metallic top. P echoed as one of them shifted. The Nexus logs confirmed the kill belonged to him. The data patterns say he was the one who struck the final blow. Against a summoner? A voice asked. His team faced 8 distinct essence types in a single campaigns. Mostly elemental, it says, which means whatever unlock he eventually gets. Another said, it likely won't be a common ability. Soft murmurs rippled between the clusters. Agreement, curiosity, competition. His tone, dark green, almost black. One mused, that shade doesn't occur in standard codex records. Mutation, or something rare. Keep watch. Will one eyes on him. Across the platform, another voice spoke, calm but edged with authority. If we intervene directly, The others won't have much time to study him. A low hum of agreement followed. Then we don't intervene. Observation will tell us more than meddling ever could. Agreed. Another said quietly. Let the guilds draw their own conclusions. We'll be watching. We have access. Observation during the next run should be enough. The next runs? A quiet chuckle. They have 25 more days before the tournament to continue portal cycles. Let the tournament show us which of them excels. After that, another 30 for Y-tier exploration if they choose it. Plenty of opportunities to test what they really are. Then we agree, said the first voice, calm and deliberate. We assist, quietly. Push where it helps. Observe where it matters. No sense letting potential like that fade unseen. Their eyes followed the hall below where Zikoff's Root made their selections in silence and Bash's team disappeared into the corridor beyond. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Rundock, Chapter 67. Fragments and futures, the artificial sunrise bled slowly across the barracks wall. Warm gold spreading through the altered panels until the shadowed corners came alive. The hum of the ark's ventilation blended with faint mechanical heartbeats from the walls, the ever-present rhythm of containment, control, safety. For the first time since stepping into the portals, Bash woke without pain. The ache that had followed him for days, deep in his ribs, behind his eyes, was gone. Only fatigue remained, the kind that felt earned. Karen sat cross-legged on her bunk, strands of her hair sticking to her face, a faint emerald glow circling her palms. Her energy shimmered like a pulse as she pressed her hands to Naira's shoulder. The faint hum of the resonance wrapped the room in light. The injury she worked on, a gash left by a summoned bird's talon, was already a thin blue line. That's the last of it, and murmured, pulling her hands away and exhaling sharply. The glow faded. Her eyes were heavy with exhaustion, but relief softened them. Naira flexed her arm, testing it. Good as new, she said, a trace of satisfaction in her tone. Better, maybe. Across from them, Richter leaned back on his bunk, boots half-laced, watching the light fade from Terran's hands. If I didn't know better, he said, I think you enjoy patching us up. Terran smirked. You make it sound like a choice. Richter's laugh was rough, low in his chest. You've done more for this team than any medic I've ever seen. The Ark should put your face on the infirmary door. They only healed what would have killed you, she replied, rubbing the back of her neck. The rest was mine to finish. Bash sat near the far wall, thick-eyed observer as always. His chair was tilted slightly back, hands resting on his knees. He'd spent the night half awake, going over every decision from the summoner fight. What had worked, what hadn't. His own wounds were gone, but the memory of them remained like a bruise under the skin. You're overextending again, he said softly. Terran gave a faint shrug. Not enough, she answered, the corner of her mouth twitching up. Naira had her rifle across her lap, cleaning the casing with a strip of cloth. The weapon, a T2 grade piece of precision engineering, gleamed under the dim light, and marred despite everything it had endured. She'd adjusted the new scope she'd selected the day before. The lens flared faintly, sinking to her sightline. It links cleaner than I expected, she said. Adjust. Ting the mount. No lag, no drift. Lock feels instant. Wouldn't surprise me, Bash said. It's built to self-tune. The aim assist recalibrates after every shot, reads the recoil pattern, compensates. Nair's mouth curved faintly. So the rifle learns too. Good. Maybe it'll stop missing when the wind gets stupid. Rixer snorted. You mean when you miss? She looked up sharply, but there was humor behind the glare. You want to stand in front of my next shot and test that theory. Rixer raised both hands in surrender, grinning. Pass. He flexed his shoulders, rolling them experimentally. The faint hum of his new armor followed every motion. A deep, steady vibration from the pulse of endurance core woven through the plating. Feels solid, he said, glancing down at the crimson bastion. Plate. The armor wasn't metal, but some composite that shimmered between crimson and black as it caught the light. Not heavy, but it feels like it's breathing with me, like it's waiting to hit back. He shifted his stance, testing the weight distribution. The boots locked with a faint click, grounding him completely. And these, he added, stomping once, before resonating underfoot. Make me feel like I could stop the ship if it tried. Please don't test that, Terran muttered, half smiling as she holstered one of her new sidearms. The weapon's casing pulsed faintly. its inner chambers glowing with soft blue resonance. I wasn't planning on it, Richter said, though the grin stayed. Nair nodded toward Taryn's hands. Those new pistols, how do they handle? Taryn turned one over in her palm, watching the faint light chase along its barrel. Better than expected. Every hit releases a small healing field. I'm not just patching Sparters up anymore. I'm keeping us alive mid-fight. Richter raised a brow. So you're shooting us now? She smirked. Only if you stand too close to the enemy. Vash leaned back slightly, intrigued. Your vestment still sinking? Perfectly, she said. Any excess healing turns into temporary shielding. It feels stable. Controlled. I can actually push harder without worrying about wasting output. Efficient, Vash said. Overkill, Richard countered. Only if I get sloppy, Taryn replied, her tone light but confident. Vash adjusted the new belt around his waist. The matte material shimmered faintly, light bending across it in ripples that looted. Head almost liquid. His knives rested in their usual positions, familiar and unassuming, but he could feel the connection now, a constant, humming thread of resonance linking each blade to his will. He drew one slowly, letting it catch the light, then released it midair. The knife vanished in a shimmer before it hit the floor, reappearing against the bandolier's magnetic grip a heartbeat later. That alone changed everything. No more counting throws. No more conserving blades. Every strike could be committed fully, every motion a continuation of the last. About time, he muttered under his breath, testing the motion again. His new suit flexed around his movements, fabric adjusting automatically to his breathing rhythm. It wasn't heavy, just present, like wearing confidence. The reactive E-layer beneath the surface adapted instantly to the air's charge, subtle ripples of resistance building and fading as he moved. He crouched once, pushing off lightly. His boots flared in response, a shimmer of light carrying him half a meter forward before settling him silently back to the ground. The phase dash left a faint distortion in the air, gone as quickly as it appeared. Vash exhaled slowly, the faintest smirk touching his lips. Now that, he said quietly, feels right. Feels like it, Richter agreed. Whole team breathing again. Nair leaned back against the bunk frame, eyes half closed. For now, before anyone could respond, all 7 of their watches chimed in unison. The sharp tone echoed through the small space, followed by a synchronized flash of blue light. Report to coordination facility in 1 hour. Instruction, Jouk. Vash tapped his display to mute it. Well, he said, there's our morning plan. The coordination facility was already crowded when they arrived. The ceiling stretched high above them, curved in smooth arcs of glass and metal, light pouring down through holographic skylights. The air buzzed faintly, the ever-present hum of Nexus systems at idle power. Jouk stood at the center dais, hands clasped behind his back, presence calm but commanding. Rows of surviving Noviks filled the hall, their fatigue visible in the way they stood, upright, but worn. The faint glow from the Nexus conduits painted everyone in shifting color. Noviks, Jouk began, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. The Council has completed redistribution. 75% of all collected beast fragments will remain within your units. 25% are allocated to the Council military. A murmur moved through the room. Relief, disbelief, muted applause from one corner. For those of you returning at full strength, he continued, your totals have been divided evenly. The figures appeared in bright holographic text above them, shifting lines of blue light. Other numbers followed for different teams, the total smaller, some divided among only 3 or 4 survivors. Vash didn't wait for anyone else. He stepped forward, retrieved the distribution case from the attendant, and turned back toward his group. 334 each, he said simply. The fragments inside the case shimmered in pale, shifting hues, very color of essence condensed into crystalline form. He handed them out one by one, Nair first, then Taryn, Leora, Dark, Callan, and Richter last. Each member accepted their share quietly, the room lit by the refracted glow from their cupped hands. Jouk stepped aside and gestured toward the translucent panels behind him. As they slid open, warm light spilled from the corridor beyond, rows of workshops alive with motion. Sparks flew from forges, pale mist drifted from glass cylinders, faint chanting echoed from the imbuer's alcoves. These fragments are your currency, Jouk said. You may save them, trade them, or use them to enhance your equipment. Behind these doors are blacksmiths, alchemists, and imbuers. They will assist you in creating, refining, and upgrading what you have. He paused, eyes scanning the room. At this level, fragment quality determines value. A single imbuement or potion of a given tier requires 100 fragments of that same tier. Mixing grades alters the probability. 90 tier 1 greater and 10 common yields a 90% success chance at greater quality. A hum of conversation spread among the teams. Quick mental math. whispered strategies. Tier 2 requires 250 fragments. Jouk went on. Tier 1 cannot be substituted upward. Tier 3 requires 350. Tier 4, 500. Very few reach that level. His voice remained steady, clinical, as if listing survival data rather than possibilities. There is also cost, he said. Normally, alchemists, imbuers, and smiths require an additional 10% as commission, but while you remain under Ark authority as Noviks, labor is free. Once assigned to guilds, those privileges end. Most guilds maintain their own crafting divisions to minimize loss. Remember that. He let the statement hang for a long moment, the implication clear. What they built now might be the last thing they ever built without owing someone. Bash glanced at his team. Rixer was listening intently, his massive frame angled forward, while Taryn's brow furrowed as she whispered quick calculations under her breath. The Aura and Dark exchanged looks, intelligent to know what those numbers meant. They were all thinking the same thing. 334 fragments sounded like a reward, but compared to what they needed, it was little more than loose change. Every piece of equipment they'd chosen the day before was Tier 2 greater or better, each one already imbued with equal tier power. T1 fragments wouldn't move the needle, not for upgrades, not for meaningful enhancement. They'd need stronger materials, rare fragments, things that only deeper, harsher portals could provide. Bash closed the case and locked it, his expression unreadable. We'll make it count, he said finally, though even he knew it would take more than hope to bridge that gap. Jap moved to the central console. His palm met the surface, and a pulse of energy rippled outward, spreading in concentric circles across the floor. The lights dimmed briefly before thousands of sigils burst into view across the far wall, glowing orbs of every color imaginable. These, Jouk said, his tone measured but commanding, are the portals currently open to Novik access. The lights around the chamber shifted, and hundreds of white spheres ignited across the display. They hovered in layered clusters, forming a sprawling lattice that stretched upward into the vaulted ceiling. Each one pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. Gasps rippled through the crowd. It wasn't the full network, not the grays, blues, or the darker hues of higher danger, but even this partial view was staggering. White glass portals only, Jouk clarified, his voice steady and matter-of-fact. Threat environments comparable to what you just returned from. Stabilized resonance fields. You'll find a full range of variant beasts within these zones, but don't mistake them for safe. The failure rate remains at 21%. He gestured toward the hovering projection, the lattice of pale spheres shifting to highlight different clusters. All available data, beast classifications, elemental tendencies, terrain conditions, and recorded encounter types has been uploaded to your system course. Use it. Choose your runs wisely. The crowd murmured in acknowledgement, quiet ripples of excitement and anxiety blending in the chamber. In Bash's mind, C's voice cut through the noise. I already have that data. He blinked, lowering his gaze slightly. Then why didn't you tell me this before? Because it would have made no difference, she replied calmly. You had more than enough targets to harvest. If your kill rates had dropped, I would have intervened. Bash exhaled through his nose, not annoyed, just resigned. Next time, intervene sooner. Next time, she said evenly, you'll ask sooner. He paused to let that sink in. You are now authorized to select your entry points, he continued. Choose your targets wisely. Focus on developing synergy and ability resonance. Teams must consist of no fewer than 5 members, and Nexus debriefs remain mandatory after every return. The projection rotated slowly, casting pale reflections across the faces of the gathered Noviks. Even with only the Y-tier access open, it felt limitless, a field of endless possibility. Dismissed, Jouk said simply. The cafeteria was still seemed unrecognizable. Real food, the kind that had shape, texture, smell, filled the tables. Roasted meat, spiced grains, baked bread, the normal rehydrate. Egg cubes were gone. The air itself smelled alive. Bash's team took their usual table, tray stacked high. For a while, they simply ate in silence. The sound of cutlery and low voices around them was oddly grounding. Rixer was the first to break the quiet. 334 each, he said between mouthfuls, leaning back in his chair. Feels like a fortune after what we went through. Taryn shook her head. Feels like a scrap. That many tier 1s might help the base teams, but for us, not much. We're already in tier 2 gear. We need thousands of tier 1s or a good trade pile of tier 2s before we'd even see a difference. Still better than nothing, Nair said softly, sipping from her cup. Half the cohort didn't come back with their full team. At least we did. The words hung in the air for a moment, heavy with the memory of what they'd seen in the coordination facility. The empty benches, the unclaimed armor, the silent groups missing 2 or 3 faces. Callan exhaled slowly. So what now? We sit on these, try to scrape up some trades. Richter shrugged. Don't see the point. Not enough to matter. Then we use the time, Callan said. We should focus on refining what we already unlocked. Strengthen what we've got instead of chasing what we don't. Bash leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Not bad, he said, but it's not enough. Jock told us the same thing. Keep unlocking, keep pushing. A balanced team is what wins fights, not a few people over-specialized. Callan frowned. That's easy to say when you're not capped out. Browns like me Don. T unlock much more. I've already unlocked one ability, likely my only. Nair set her cup down gently, eyes steady on him. This isn't just about unlocking for ourselves. It's about rounding out the team. You strengthen what you can, we do the same. We're not chasing personal upgrades. We're making sure no one gets left behind again. She looked at Bash as she said it, and something unspoken passed between them. Gratitude, maybe, or acknowledgement. Whatever it was, Lidor caught it, her lips curving slightly. Across from her, Darek smirked. On the other side of the table, Richter and Taryn exchanged the same knowing look. Callan noticed. His jaw tightened. He said nothing, but the tension didn't fade. Nair went on, unaware, or pretending to be. We started this as a team. We finish it the same way. Every ability unlocked is another chance to survive the next run. Leora nodded. Especially for you two, she said, glancing at Bash and Nair. Neither of you has unlocked yet, but if it weren't for what you both pulled off in that portal, none of us would have made it out alive. That win, all of it, started with you. That's not true, Bash said quietly. We all had a hand in it. It is true. Leora countered. You held the line when the rest of us were done. That predator was tier 2 greater, and we were falling apart. You didn't. Dark leaned forward, his tone easy but serious. She's right. You carried the end of that fight. Without that throw, we'd be gone, and those upgrades we earned, they'd be decorating others. Nair looked down at her cup, a faint color rising to her cheeks. You make it sound cleaner than it was, she said quietly. Taryn smiled faintly. It doesn't have to be clean to count. Callan's hands clenched under the table, unseen. The praise hit harder than he wanted to admit. Every word was true, but hearing it out loud twisted something deep in his chest. He'd fought hard too. Every one of them had, but all the glory seemed to orbit Bash now. Bash, oblivious or deliberately ignoring it, nodded once. Then that settles it. We focus on the next run. Unlocks, synergy, and survival, in that order. If anyone has a chance to reach their next tier, we'll make sure it happens. Richter grinned. Finally, something that sounds like a plan. Nair gave a small nod. We've been reacting since the start. It's time to start preparing. Leoral aimed back, and maybe this time, with everyone conscious by the end. That drew a few tired chuckles, even from Callan. The tension around the table loosened, the air shifting from heavy reflection to quiet determination. For a moment, no one spoke. The faint hum of the cafeteria filled the space. Trays, conversation, the low murmur of dozens of other teams doing the same thing, regrouping, rethinking, surviving. Bash leaned back, gaze drifting to the holomap still hovering on his watch. The new data pulsed faintly. Hundreds of white glass portals, each one labeled, detailed, waiting. Somewhere out there were the fragments, the beasts, the unlocks, the paths forward. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a BS up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brundock Chapter 68. Calculations and Fire. The team hadn't gone far after their meal. The cafeteria had thinned out, the last few squads still murmuring over their own plans. The team still lingering at their table, the weight of Jouk's briefing and the promise of new portals still fresh in their minds. Richter leaned back in his chair, half grinning. So, what's the plan now? Please tell me that's not more rest and reflect. My body's healed. My patience hasn't. Bash sat forward, folding his arms. Not rest. Planning. That word drew every eye at the table. For the next run, Bash said, we've got 24 days left until the tournament. That means 23 after today. Jouk made it clear. The ones who make it through are the ones who adapt the fastest. We're not here to relax. We're here to unlock. Leora nodded slowly. You're talking about full spectrum assessment. Every ability. Exactly, Bash said. There are 17 left. Everything from elemental to the ultra-rare types that we haven't encountered yet. If we're going to go into that tournament with our best chance of doing well, we need to hit as many of them as possible. Callan tilted his head, skeptical but listening. You're saying one portal for every ability, not one for one. Bash replied. Some overlap. If we choose carefully, we can target portals that have multiple ability types with decent unlock probabilities. Elementals overlap with some essence categories, like when Leora and Dark both unlock mineral, and not much longer you unlocked wind. We can use that to stack chances. Naira leaned forward, her expression thoughtful. So one portal per day, each focused on a specific set of unlocks. That's the idea, Bash said, his voice calm but sure. We've got 23 days. If we focus on the more common ability types first, elemental, essence, and physical, we can hit multiple at once. Like the first portal we ran when we crossed 8 different ability environments in 3 days. If we use the map smartly and move fast, we can make it efficient. Rush the areas tied to abilities we haven't unlocked, then shift immediately to the next. We'll rack up combat experience, build fragments, and keep learning how to fight with our abilities and new gear along the way. Nair tilted her head, impressed. So basically, hit everything fast, hard, and smart. Exactly, Bash said. We've already proven we can survive a tier 2 greater. Now it's about refining what we know, making every run count. Rixer whistled. That's a lot of fights in 23 days. It's doable, Terran said quietly. If we plan the order right. Cal nodded, though his tone carried hesitation. I can work with that. I'd prefer more Tim. Need to focus on my own ability growth. But 7 people, one plan. I get it. Bash met his gaze evenly. You'll get your chance. Everyone will. The table fell silent for a few moments as they all considered it. The scale of it, the pace, the risk. Nair finally spoke. Then we need a route. We can't just walk into random white portals and hope for the best. Bash nodded slightly, pretending to study the map on his wrist while Asi's voice threaded through his mind, clear and sharp. Start with the fire-dominant portal. Last elemental. Then move to essence and physical types. Keep the intervals tight. Short rest between runs increases unlock probability. He didn't reply aloud. Instead, he lifted his gaze to the team and said, we start with the fire-type portal. It's the last elemental we haven't tackled. After that, we move through essence and physical categories. Minimal rest between. The faster we roll through them, the better chance we have at triggering new unlocks. Terran tilted her head. You really think we can manage that pace? It worked before, Bash said. 3 days, 8 ability types. Same method, just sharper execution. Rixer smirked. So we're sprinting through hell again. Pretty much. Bash allowed the corner of his mouth to lift. But this time, we know what we're walking into. As he hummed quietly in his head, approximate success increase, 31%, assuming no one dies. He ignored the comment and looked to his team. We start with fire tomorrow. Portal 631. Terran leaned forward, tapping the table. Then after 631, Bash pulled up a projection on his wristband. 7 columns, each labeled by ability type. We move into essence-based. Manipulation and lightning both show concentrations in the same portals. After that, we target duty, then physical force. We've already seen speed and power/strength. The next is thorns and reflective shell. Rixer smirked. Orin sounds fun. Not when you're on the receiving end, Dark muttered. Bash continued, scrolling further. After that, we hit the rare ones. Blink step, still veil, imbuing, alchemy, reincarnate, time, space, and gravity. Those are low probability types, less than 1% chance for any single team member. But if we can get the others out of the way first, we can afford to take that gamble. Leora's eyes widened slightly. You're actually thinking we would hit all 17, thinking we can try, Bash said. The odds are low, but our coordination's higher than most. Jouk said it himself. We're ahead of schedule. If we manage to round out the base set, anything else is a bonus. Callan leaned back, arms crossed. You've already made up your mind. Yeah, Bash said, but that doesn't mean it's not a team call. He looked around the table. Thoughts? Naira spoke first. We started this together. We finish it together. Her tone was steady, certain. I'm in. Terran nodded. Same. Rixer grinned. You had me at fight. Dark gave a small shrug. As long as there's something to hit, I'll manage. Leora smiled faintly. And if we're lucky, something to learn. Callan hesitated, eyes flicking briefly toward Naira, then Bash. His tension sent. Bill lingered behind his calm expression, but after a long pause, he nodded once. Fine, I'm in, but if we're burning through 23 days, I want to make sure it counts. It will, Bash said. We'll make it count. He glanced at his wrist again. SE. What do we have to look forward to in 631? She replied, surface conditions, volcanic plains with subsurface magma currents, environmental hazards moderate to high, population density, standard, sustainable for extended engagement, fire resonance detected at 48%, departure window opens at 0700 hours. That's good enough, Bash thought. We'll take it. Bash repeated this information to the team. Looks like we have our destination, Nair said. Taryn exhaled, sitting back in her chair. Fire, then S&C, then Thorns, busy schedule. Rixer grinned, just how I like it. Bash stood, straightening his jacket. Then we gear up, check our sync, and get some rest. Tomorrow morning, we move. The others began to rise, the low scrape of chairs breaking the stillness. For a few moments, the room filled with quiet chatter, small exchanges, half-jokes, weary optimism. It was the first time since the summoner fight that they sounded like a unit again. As the team dispersed toward the dorm corridor, Bash lingered behind, checking his watch again. The map of white portals shimmered before him, each one glowing faintly, a constellation of opportunity waiting just beyond reach. SC's voice cut through the quiet. You realize it's going to get harder the further you go. The rarer the ability, the lower the manifestation rate. You're chasing probabilities that drop off exponentially. Bash didn't answer right away. He leaned back in his chair, eyes drifting across the dim cafeteria. The map still glowed faintly on his wrist. Hundreds of portals, thousands of chances. Good, he murmured. We have the maps now. We'll find them. You're confident. I have to be. His voice stayed low. If we're going to stand a chance in that tournament, we need every edge we can get. We're Novaks, no guilds, no sponsors, no external funding to prop us up. The only thing we've got is time, and even that's running out. A pause. He exhaled, eyes narrowing. Besides, Murdoch's waiting for me. He made sure everyone knows he's fully unlocked. And me. He gave a short, humorless laugh. I'd be king in there with nothing but knives and armor. Doesn't sound like a fair fight. Then we make it one, SC said quietly. Bash's jaw tightened, a small nod following. The map dimmed as he closed the display. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brundock Chapter 69. The magma crawlers, the cafeteria hummed with low voices and clattering trays. A strange calm before another storm. Bash sat at the end of the table, eyes fixed on the thin steam rising from his cup. Around him, the others moved with quiet purpose, checking weapons, ammunition, and gear. The air was thick with the metallic scent of solvent and breakfast heat. No one said much. They didn't need to. The last portal still echoed behind their ice-equipped. Visors synced. Within minutes they were out of the cafeteria, boots striking the corridor floor in perfect rhythm. The registration chamber was massive, an atrium carved from polished alloy, its walls covered with numbered gates that pulsed in soft gold light. Teams moved in tight clusters, each flanked by technicians and overseers low, gauging their portal designations. As Bash's team approached the counter, a console drone extended a thin panel. Squad designation 09 Kappa, Bash said. The drone scanned their wrist tags in sequence. Authorized for Portal 631, it replied. Fire dominant classification. Extraction beacon required. It produced a palm-sized disc glowing faintly orange. Bash took it, the metal warm against his skin. Signal range? He asked. 2 clicks local. Planet-wide relay upon manual activation. The drone answered, voice clinical. Do not lose it. Your team's recovery may depend on that beacon. He nodded once, clipped the device to his belt, and gestured for the others to follow. They were guided down a long hall, each door marked with immense engraved numbers. 150, 51, 100, 101, 150. The sequence, C climbing endlessly upward. The corridor narrowed as they went deeper, lights dimming to red. The air grew warmer, thicker, the faint vibration of portal reactors thrumming through the floor. When they reached 600, 650, the escort halted. This is your range, she said, stepping aside. The door split open like a vault, revealing a deep, dim chamber. The only true light emanated from the center, where the portal pulsed. It was a vertical, swirling gateway of flawless, silent white light. The vortex was so intense that it seemed to absorb all color and shadow nearby. its edges perfectly defined against the gloom of the room. The portal offered absolutely no visual information about the world on the other side, only a blinding, beautiful concentration of pure, achromatic energy. No one spoke. They stepped through. Weightlessness struck instantly, a sickening drop into nothing, senses twisting as if gravity itself forgot what to do. Then came the fall, hard and real. Bash hit the ground shoulder first, armor scraping against jagged stone. Heat slammed into him. The air itself felt alive, shimmering with distortion. Status, he said, forcing himself up. Alive, Callan grunted. And sweating already. Armor temps rising but stable, Terran reported. 78 degrees ambient. Feels worse. Lava river snaked through the valley below, glowing veins cutting through fields of black volcanic glass. In the distance, volcano spat bursts of molten light into a scarlet sky. SC's voice came through the neural link, calm and clinical. Environmental scan complete. Atmos, Herrick integrity 94%. Local temperatures peak at 103 Celsius. Magma channels active. Composition analysis, basaltic plains, volatile gas presence, high mineral density. Bash fought back, silently, abilities present, 48% fire, remainder, durability, mineral, force, total 99%, remaining 1% unclassified, rare encounters expected. He nodded slightly, pulling up the map projection. 2 clicks north, swarm icon, thoughts, classification probability, magma crawler, or Hephaestus scarab. Tier 1 greater likelihood 75%, 20% common, 5% apex. He exhaled. That's not ideal, but not the worst it could be. Say it, Nair muttered, adjusting her rifle. Just say swarm again. Swarm, Bash said flatly. Groans circled the team. Rixer shook his head. If this is another 1,000 little bastards, I'm walking back to the Ark. Terran smirked. You'd melt halfway there. The journey took less than half an hour. They crossed lava rivers by narrow basalt ridges, heat rising in waves that warped their vision. Every step felt like walking on a furnace. Their engineered armor fatigues hissed softly, the microvents along the seams working overtime to purge heat and stabilize body temperature. The suit's internal regulators kept their core temps just below the failure threshold, but the air still pressed down like a living weight. When they reached the marked coordinates, the land flattened into a broad expanse of cracked obsidian gravel. No movement, no sound but the hiss of distant vents. Visuals clear, Callan said from above, perched on a cliff edge 50 meters back. Nothing moving. Map says swarms here. Bash replied. Spread formation. Melee forward, ranged on overwatch. They moved into position. Rixer, the aura, and Dark took point. Bash and Terran followed 10 meters behind. Nair and Callan spread out high on opposite ridges, rifles and bows scanning the haze. Rixer halted, lowering his hammer. Map's wrong again. Nothing here. The ground shuddered. A ripple ran through the gravel. Tiny holes began to open, steam hissing upward. The first beetle crawled free, a fist-sized insect plated in dark obsidian, its shell veined with glowing orange light. Contact! Terran shouted, firing immediately. The shot ripped through the creature, scattering molten fragments. Leora gasped sharply, clutching her chest. The faint glow beneath her armor flared once, bright as a pulse. Unlock, she said, voice trembling. Bash's eyes flicked to her, then to the spreading field of holes. More incoming. They came in waves, hundreds, then thousands. The ground itself seemed to crawl, a sea of firelit shells spilling upward from the earth. Bash drew both knives, weapons free. Target the holes. Callan's arrows streaked through the heat, blades of compressed wind slicing unseen paths. Nair's rifle cracked again and again, every shot a flash of blue fire. Bash's knives spun out, curving through arcs of orange light before snapping back to his hands. Each kill brought a pulse, a sharp jolt deep in his chest. Tier 1 greater signature conf. Armed, SE murmured, resonance consistent across subjects. Pulse count rising. Yeah, I can tell, he muttered, jaw tight. Nair flinched mid-shot, her aim faltering. What the hell was that? She steadied herself, eyes widening behind the visor. Wait, his breathing's optional right now. Bash glanced her way but said nothing, keeping his knives in motion. The pulse still burned in his chest, but he buried it beneath the rhythm of combat. Leora steadied herself, the glow under her skin stabilizing. She leapt forward, blades cutting through clusters of beetles with practiced precision. The swarm erupted. Fire sprayed into the air as the creatures ignited their own volatile fluid, clouds of incandescent mist that burned and vanished in seconds. Rixer waded through them, hammer swinging L, Ica wrecking ball. Each strike cracked the ground, scattering molten shards and fragments. Then, bracing himself against the tide, He drove the weapon straight into the densest part of the swarm. The head of the hammer flared crimson. The stored resonance detonated outward in a shockwave that tore through the battlefield. Hundreds of beetles vaporized instantly, along with the volatile clouds they'd released. The blast ignited the air in a brief sphere of white-orange fire before collapsing back into heat and smoke. The wave hit like a physical wall. Leora cried out, clutching her chest as the flood of essence ripped through her. Vash staggered 2 steps back, vision tunneling, but he caught himself before anyone saw. "Rixer!" Terran shouted over the comms. He straightened, Soot street, aching his engineered fatigues, faint scorch marks cutting across his sleeves. "I'm fine," he roared, shaking off the ash. "Just hot. Don't do that again," Dark yelled, cleavers carving through another surge. "You almost dropped Leora. She's overloaded." Leora steadied herself, breathing hard, one hand pressed to her chest as the aftershock faded. "Sorry," Rixer called, backing up to rejoin formation. "Didn't think it'd hit that hard." "Focus!" Bash barked. "Keep the formation tight." He shifted his footing, forcing the lingering tremor from his legs as the next wave surged toward them. The team fell into rhythm, every movement measured, lethal. Nair and Callan swept the outer rings, cutting down anything that escaped the center. Karen's pistols thundered in a relentless rhythm, each shot healing her allies through the field effect. Rixer, Dark, and Leora tore through the swarm like moving artillery, hammer, blades, and cleavers flashing against the glow. Ash moved at the heart of it all, a blur of steel and precision. Every throw found its mark, every return left another burning husk in its wake. The pulses kept coming, sharp, rhythmic, relentless. He stopped counting after the first 100. After nearly an hour, the storm began to die. The ground trembled one last time, then went still. The air shimmered with heat and ash. "Cease fire," Vash said quietly. "I think that's it." Richter dropped to one knee, breathing hard. His armor was scarred black but intact, and his burns, already gone. "Guess that's confirmation," he muttered. Terran nodded. "Healing field whoa. Arcad, you're lucky." Leora straightened slowly, wiping soot from her face. "2 abilities now," she said, still catching her breath. Nair reloaded, leaning on her rifle. "Just unlocked." Finally, Vash said nothing. SC's voice filled his head again. 967 pulses recorded. Sustained resonance confirmed. "I lost count," he thought. "No need," she replied dryly. "I was monitoring you." He let out a breath, forcing calm into his expression. The team regrouped near the center of the field. The ground was littered with obsidian, husks still faintly glowing from internal heat. "These fragments," Callan said, crouching to collect samples. "These things are solid. Count and pack them," Bash ordered. "We'll take everything back." By the time they finished, they had 2,731 fragments, TS stacked and sealed. Rixer whistled low. "Not bad for an hour's work." Nair smirked. "Bees were worse." The walk back to the portal was slow but steady, the heat still rolling off the ground in shimmering waves. The volcanic winds had quieted. Even the lava rivers seemed calmer now, their glow dulled beneath the rising haze. None of them spoke much. Only the crunch of gravel underfoot and the soft hiss of their fatigues filled the silence. By the time they reached the entry point, the swirling gate stood just as they'd left it, white light pulsing against the obsidian plain. Bash took one last look at the battlefield behind them. "Everyone through," he said quietly. One by one, they stepped into the portal. The firelight folded in on itself, and the heat vanished all at once. "Wait'll," SS again, then the pull. When Bash's boots hit solid ground, the air was cool and clean. The ark's resonance chamber, the familiar chill of polished metal and filtered air replaced the furnace of the planet. The team exhaled almost in unison, the transition always more jarring than they remembered. The calm sterility of the Nexus wing waited ahead, ready for debriefing. The walk from the portal chamber to the Nexus wing felt longer than last time. Even though the ark's air was cool and clean, the heat of the volcanic world still clung to their fatigues. No one spoke. Exhaustion had replaced adrenaline, and the memory of the swarm still throbbed behind their eyes. The doors to the Nexus chamber parted with a low hiss. Inside, the room was silent and sterile. White light diffused across, glass panels, the faint hum of resonance coils filling the air. Each of them took their station, locking their connectors into the neural interface ports built into the wall. Bash's vision flickered as the system handshake initiated. Cool static threaded through his skull, then dissolved into the familiar calm of synchronization. The Nexus flooded his mind with light, fragments of memory unspooling in front of him like reflections in water. He saw the swarm again, the burning sky, Richard's hammer strike, the aura stumble. Each event replayed with surgical precision as the system parsed through data for inconsistencies. Inside his own head, Essie stirred. Her presence wasn't separate. It was layered through his thoughts, moving as he moved, whispering through his memory feed. Stay still. Let me manage the record. He complied. The scenes began to shift subtly. His stumble during the resonance surge blurred into static. His exhaustion flattened into composure. The pain that had lanced through his chest was quietly erased. Memory corrected. Essence flow stable. No anomalies detected. She worked quickly, replacing instinct with precision, chaos with order. The less they see, she whispered inside him, the less they question. When I learn to block their access completely, we'll be able to look back into the nexus instead of it looking into you. Do it, he thought, keeping his expression neutral. We'll need every edge we can get. The scan ended as abruptly as it had begun. The light receded, the hum of the coil softened, and the walls shifted back from white to muted gray. E-room's intercom confirmed completion with a hollow chime. Debrief complete, the technician's voice said from behind the glass. All readings nominal. Bash detached the connector from the base of his neck. To the others, he looked calm, collected as ever. No one saw the flicker of static still dancing faintly behind his eyes. Afterward, the team gathered in the mess again. The mood was lighter now. Adrenaline faded into exhaustion and pride. They relived moments of the fight, teasing, laughing, boasting over near misses. When the payout arrived, Bash distributed the 2,048 fragments evenly. 292 each, he said, the corner of his mouth twitching. Spend it smart. Rixer snorted. Yeah, maybe that'll buy half a bullet. The table broke into tired laughter, half amusement, half exhaustion. As they left the hall, Essie's voice came quietly in Bash's mind. Portal 297. 53% composition between lightning and essence manipulation. Ideal for progression. He relayed it aloud. Next runs 297. Lightning and essence. The team nodded without argument. Plans were already forming behind their tired eyes. Bash lingered in the corridor as the others drifted toward their dorms. You said you made progress, he thought. A little. SC replied. I can't dive deep during the official debriefs, but I found the entry point. Next time, I'll push further. He nodded once, more to himself than her. The lights dimmed. The arc's hum faded to a low mechanical heartbeat. The screams, the white light, the storm of wings. Even laughter felt muted now, tempered by memory. Taryn broke the silence first. Gear integrity confirmed, she murmured, sliding a fresh magazine into place and checking the charge indicator on her sidearms. The faint glow of her scanner flickered across her own gauntlet display as she cycled through ammunition counts and cooling levels. Naira leaned back, setting her rifle case on the table. Let's just not make this one another swarm. I'm still finding chitin dust in my gear. Callan smirked. You mean from the bees? Yeah, she said, grimacing. I can still hear the buzzing when it's too quiet. Callan gave a short laugh, but even that carried an edge. You're assuming we get to choose. Bash stood, the faint clink of his knives echoing as they shifted at his belt. Heat up and load out. We're due in registration in 5. The team moved as one, efficient and silent. Weapons locked. Armor. No, I just unlocked. Taryn's voice rose through the comms, half disbelief, half relief. Finally, just keep breathing and stay on target. Naira smirked through the string. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brundock Chapter 70. The Stormfront to morning cycle came too soon. The arc's sterile corridors hummed with their usual rhythm, but the team's pace was heavier, slightly slowed by fatigue, sharpened by purpose. They moved in practiced silence, following the same pattern as before. Cafeteria, registration, escort. The registration hall glowed in the soft blue of early shift. A console drone scanned their tags as they approached. Squad 09 Kappa, Bash said. Authorized for Portal 297, the drone replied. It produced a palm-sized disc glowing faintly orange. Bash took it, the metal warm against his skin. They followed their escort down another long corridor, the same endless stretch of numbered doors, the same low hum of reactors behind the walls. When they reached 251-300, the attendant stopped and keyed the panel. This is your range, she said. The door slid open to reveal a chamber ringed with 50 active portals, each one identical, pure white, silent, and perfectly still. They gave off no heat, no color, just the same depthless light that seemed to absorb the shadows around it. Callan exhaled softly. They all look the same. They are the same, Bash said. doesn't make it less dangerous. Rixer adjusted his grip on the hammer. Then let's get it over with. They stepped through. Weightlessness again. The familiar drop, but softer this time, almost restrained. Then impact. Bash hit the ground on one knee, soaked instantly by shallow water. The air was cool and sharp, smelling faintly humid air. Lightning flickered across the purple sky. Dozens of bolts weaving through dark clouds that stretched in every direction. The horizon glowed silver where the light met the sea. Status, Bash said, rising. Systems nominal, Terran reported. Humidity 90%. Vents holding. Nair tilted her head back, watching the storm dance above. Feels alive. The world was both magnificent and eerie, a limitless ocean reflecting the lightning like a living mirror. In the distance, faint landmasses rose from the water, each wrapped in mist. Bash opened the holographic map. Nearest energy signature, 1 click west. Follow the riverbank. They started walking. The ground shifted between sand and slick stone, streaked with veins of glass that pulsed faintly when lightning struck. The river came into view soon after. A slow-moving current fed arcly from the ocean, glowing faint blue from the constant discharge overhead. Shapes lined the bank ahead. Contacts, Callan said, lowering his bow. Dozen or so. Frogs, each the size of the dog, skin glistening with thin layers of mucus that shimmered under the lightning. They croaked in low, vibrating tones that made the air hum. SC's voice threaded through Bash's mind. Water type confirmed. Tier 1 common probability, 95%. Water T1C. Bash relayed. Take one down. Nair, go ahead. Her rifle snapped once. The nearest frog spasmed and fell. A faint pulse echoed through Bash's chest. Gentle, validating. Confirmed, he said. Clean the rest. In seconds, the bank was silent again. The frogs dissolved into residual steam, leaving behind small crystalline tongue fragments. NTS. Callan collected them quickly, tossing the last into a pouch. Nothing worth bragging about, he said. Still counts, Bash replied. Next signature. 1.3 clicks east. The terrain shifted as they moved inland. Lightning strikes grew closer, illuminating jagged spires of rock. At the base of one, a broad pool shimmered. Something moved beneath the surface, long, serpentine shadows twisting in rhythm. Eels, Leora said. At least 10. Bash crouched as SC began scanning. Confirmed, she said. Electric type. The first eel burst from the pool, lightning arcing across its wet scales. Bolts scattered across the rocks as the team spread out. Leora and Dark slammed their palms down, mineral shields rising from the ground. The second eel struck, electricity crawling across, the bearers but failing to penetrate. Bash's knives flashed through the rain, embedding deep into more eels before snapping back. Sparks danced up the metal as the creatures thrashed. The pulse hit, sharp, resonant, unmistakable. Nothing, no change detected, SC said, her tone clinical in his mind. Resonance elevated, but no unlock event registered. Bash's jaw tightened. You've got to be kidding me. He gritted his teeth, forcing the irritation down. Another bolt tore through the water, catching Rixer square in the chest. He roared, the blast lighting his silhouette white. Rixer, Terran shouted, already raising her pistols. I'm fine, he barked, though his voice crackled beneath layers of static. He gripped the haft of his hammer tighter. Lightning crawled over his skin. The ground hissed where droplets struck, steam curling upward in tight spirals. Across the pool, Callan loosed an arrow, the invisible shaft cutting clean through an eel's skull. Rixer staggered mid-swing, the breath knocked out of him. For a split second, everything went white in his eyes. In his chest, heat, vibration, and pain. He swung again, this time heavier, faster, the motion sharper, cleaner. The eels convulsed as the weapon connected, arcs of light dancing briefly across the impact points. Another pulse hit him. It seemed harder this time. He froze for less than a heartbeat this time, breath catching as the surge rolled through him as he stared into the distance. Resonance alignment, lightning. Holy hell, Nair breathed. Keep fighting, Bash ordered. Don't lose formation. They press. D forward. The eels retaliated with bursts of electricity. Bedarik and Leor held firm, their mineral barriers grounding the charge. Callan's wind arrows sliced through the chaos, while Terran's shots pulsed green, healing and reinforcing. Within minutes, the basin boiled with dead eels. The air smelled of ozone and steam. Rixer lowered his weapon. Guess I've got 2 powers now. Bash nodded once. Congratulations. Steam still rolled off the surface of the pool, faint arcs of energy fading into the air. The team regrouped along the bank, weapons lowered. Harvest the eels, Bash said. They moved efficiently, cutting through the thick hides and removing the cores one by one. The bodies were already starting to cool, their scales darkening from bright silver to a dull gray. Each core glowed faintly before settling, leaving behind a slick residue on their gloves. 21 confirmed, Callan said, sealing the last in a fragment pouch. Good, Bash replied. Once the remains were cleared, Callan pulled up the map overlay. Got another set of individual markers about 3 clicks east. Then that's our next stop, Bash said. They reformed and started east. The terrain rose gradually, the storm thickening above. Bolts flickered so close now they could feel the static crawl along their fatigues. When the next flash split the sky, the ridge ahead came into focus, black stone slick with rain, and stretched across it. Something massive. A dragon. Silver scales shimmered with electricity. Arc slept between its horns as it breathed, exhaling white-blue fire that twisted into vapor. Single target, Bash said. Tier 1 Apex. It's guarding the path forward. The dragon turned, eyes glowing with blinding light. It struck before they could move. A thunderous blast of lightning tore across the ridge, slamming into Rexer again. The current chained through him, arcing into Leora and Dart. Both shouted as they dropped to one knee, stunned but unharmed, their mineral resonance dulling most of the damage. Shields, Bash commanded. Stone walls erupted around them, intercepting another volley. Nair's rifle barked once. The round struck the dragon square in the chest. There was a flash, a burst of blue static, but the creature barely flinched. The charge discharged harmlessly across its scales, leaving only a faint scorch mark. My shock rounds aren't doing a damn. Thing, she shouted. Minimal effect. SE confirmed in Bash's head, scale rigidity dispersing the current. Stay on it, Bash said. Target joints, eyes, anything soft. Callan climbed the slope, arrows glowing white as he loosed 3 in rapid succession. The first 2 deflected, the third buried deep into the dragon's left eye. It screamed, the sound shaking the ground. Now, Bash hurled both knives, their trajectories curving wide before piercing the remaining eye. The creature thrashed blindly, lightning erupting from its wings. Rixer grinned through the chaos. My turn. He charged, energy rippling around his hammer until it glowed like a miniature sun. When it came down, the ridge cracked, and the dragon's head shattered beneath the impact. Silence followed, broken only by TH. The faint hiss of rain. Karen's shots whispered through the air, sealing burns and calming static arcs across their suits. Status check, Bash said. Stable, Terran replied. Good. Collect the fragment and move. The dragon's body crackled faintly even in death, faint arc still crawling across its hide. At the center of its chest, one massive scale glowed brighter than the rest. Its fragment. The team worked carefully, prying it free. The scale was heavy and warm, veins of pale blue lightning frozen beneath the surface like captured storms. The moment it separated from the body, the glow intensified. Then the scale shrank, condensing in on itself until it was no larger than a coin. Bash caught it in his hand, the residual energy humming faintly against his glove. He turned it once between his fingers before slipping it into his fragment pouch. Another apex down, he said quietly. They stood in silence for a few moments, the rain hissing against scorched rock. The storm above had settled into a steady rhythm, lightning still flickering in the distance, but the air felt calmer now, almost reverent. Let's move, Bash said finally. The ridge sloped downward into a narrow valley. They followed the trail in single file, boots crunching over wet stone and shallow puddles that reflected the light like shattered glass. Every few steps, faint tremors rolled beneath their feet, distant thunder, or maybe the aftershocks of the dragon's fall. By the time the ground began to level again, the glow of the storm was dimming behind the clouds. Ahead, a wall of trees rose from them, mist, tall, silver-barked, their leaves shifting faintly with residual static. Callan pointed toward the tree line. Next zone. Looks dense. Bash nodded. Stay sharp. We've seen what these transitions hide. They stepped off the stone ridge and into the forest shadow. The hum of electricity faded behind them, replaced by the quiet, waiting stillness of the next hunt. Movement, Callan murmured. Tree line, high, through the branches, 4 shapes drifted like ghosts, owls, enormous and silent, eyes glowing gold. Essence manipulation signatures, SC said within Bash's mind. 75% Tier 1 greater, 20% common, 5% apex probability. Ranged formation, Bash ordered. One owl struck first, a beam of golden light firing from its eye, scorching a crater, where Rixer had stood a second earlier. They are shooting from their eyes, he yelled. Callan and Nair returned fire. The first owl fell, bursting into fragments of light. Nair gasped, holding her chest. I just unlocked again, she said, half shocked, half thrilled. Keep your aim steady, Bash said. They hunted the rest methodically, but the owls were nothing like the beasts before. These moved with purpose. The moment the first fell, the other scattered into the canopy, wings cutting silent arcs through the storm-lit forest. Every few seconds, a flash of gold cut through the branches, pulses from their eyes, searing the air where the team had been a heartbeat earlier. Keep moving, Bash shouted, diving behind a fallen trunk as a beam scorched the ground beside him. Kellen fired upward, arrows slicing through the mist. They're tracking movement. Don't stay still. The forest erupted into chaos. The air pulsed with light and static as the owls fired in alternating rhythms, forcing the team to reposition constantly. Nayar's visor flared with targeting data. She caught a glimpse of one perched high above, wings half spread. She exhaled, centered, and fired. The shot pierced clean through its chest, the impact cracking the silence with a pulse that rolled through the clearing. The resonance brushed her like an echo, familiar now, heavy but not overwhelming. She steadied her breath, forcing the tremor out of her hands. To left, Callan shouted. Bash gave a short nod and moved, knives already in motion. Free left, Leora called, blades ready as she took cover near a split trunk. One swooped low, releasing a pulse at close range. The beam sliced across the ground in a molten streak. Bash spun and hurled two knives. They curved through the haze, one grazing a wing, the other burying itself deep in the owl's neck. The creature screeched, disoriented, crashing into the trees before vanishing into light. Another pulse tore through Bash as it died, harder this time, deep and burning. His knees nearly buckled. He caught himself against a tree, vision pulsing white around the edges. Energy manipulation signature confirmed. SC reported in his mind, voice steady, but no unlock event detected. He clenched his jaw, teeth grinding. You've got to be kidding me. Data's clean, she replied. Your resonance is responding, but the transition threshold hasn't triggered. Red, the anger hit before the pain faded. He pressed his hand to his chest, forcing air back into his lungs. I felt over 1,000 of these, he thought, the word sharp and bitter. And nothing. SC was silent for a long second, then we keep going. Bash pushed off the tree, ice cold and unfocused. Yeah, we keep going. To left, Callan shouted. Naira caught a flicker of movement above and pivoted, her next round catching one mid-flight. The owl exploded in a flash of golden essence, the light fading as feathers dissolved into motes. Only one remained, circling high, calculating. Bash waited, watching the rhythm of its movements. When it turned to strike, he threw two knives in sequence. The first missed wide on purpose. The second followed the recoil, slipping beneath its wing, and straight into its heart. Nair lowered her rifle, exhaling. That all of them? Bash nodded. All 5. The air was thick with fading light. The last feathers drifted down like ash, glowing faintly before disappearing into the soil. Silence returned to the forest, broken only by the distant crack of thunder. Callan checked his wrist display. 37 total beast. We're done here, Bash said. They gathered the fragments, the owl's crystalline pupils, and turned back toward their entry portal. The return was smooth. The portal light enveloped them, the world of storms fading into white. When they stepped back onto the ark, the chill of recycled air felt almost alien. The Nexus debrief followed. The same sterile room, the same hum of coils. Bash connected to the interface. ICL, pulsing as the light consumed him. SC filtered the memories again, removing chaos, smoothing truth into something clean and safe. When it ended, Bash exhaled, detached the cable, and looked to his team. They were smiling this time, tired, but genuinely proud. When the payout came, he divided the fragments evenly, 15 each. He said dryly, spend it smart. Rixer chuckled, yeah, maybe I'll buy a second hammer. Nair shook her head, still grinning. 2 days, and our team unlocked 3 new abilities. This plan's actually working. Let's keep it that way, Bash said. Thank you for reading this chapter. Your support means the world to me. If you enjoyed it, please consider giving a thumbs up, leaving a positive review or a comment. It truly helps a debut author like myself. As this is my first novel, I am still learning, and I would love to hear your constructive feedback to help me improve. I'll do my best to reply to your comments. If you would like a better understanding of Bash's origin and family, check out my book Before the Genesis. It tells the story of Kyle and Abby and has some lead up right into this novel. Brenda.